mean, like, what a power move, right? Because Microsoft was actually the biggest client of OpenAI, and then they...
Example, if Elon gets fired, I don't know. Do the employees really love him? Because he's more on the...
Welcome to the Infinite Creative Podcast on all thankful of thankful weeks, Thanksgiving week 2023. My name is Grainy, and this is my friend...
Doc and Moody Fitz.
Hey, how are you doing, man? How was your Thanksgiving?
Well, I was like working till 2 a.m. We were working on the wedding video, and I was hanging out with my buddy, and we were editing and drinking wine. So romantic.
Ooh, super romantic. Such a bro fest you had. I leave town for 1 week, and this guy invites a guy over for wine and has a work thing. I mean, I'm sorry you guys have to see this on the air. Our couple troubles.
But I mean, like, in the end, I learned actually a lot of things because, like, it's the first time that I see how he color graded and sound design, and it's kind of funny to see when you see your colleague or like a buddy who does the same things but in a different way, and you learn a bunch of little things. It was really cool. Do you have like an experience like that with like web designers?
Oh yeah, all the time with web designers. A lot of the times when I meet a new web designer, I kind of stay quiet because they just like, yeah, this and this and this, right? And like at least 2 out of the 3 things they tell me, I'm like, nah, I didn't know that. I don't do that either.
You got to bring the wine out, my man.
Oh yeah. Apparently, I need to wine and dine all my coworkers. But yeah, it's like one of my friends, he's learning development. It's so funny because it's funny as he's learning, he's like, "You do this right? You do this safety stuff right that I just learned." I'm like,
"Safety?"
No. He'll be like, "I'm like, yeah, safety is our first concern. You're right." He's like, "Oh yeah, you're backing things up in a great way like this, right?" And like, no, I probably should.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's always like a risk level that you're willing to accept. I have that too, like when you shoot a wedding or an event and you're like, oh yeah, dual SD cards, in case one SD card fails, or bring multiple cameras. But sometimes we like living it risky, because like double the space is not always like double the profit.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we wheel and gun so much that we like lose sight of some stuff. So yeah, when you work with someone else, they're kind of like, whoa, you should do that. And you're like, oh yeah, I probably should. I've been going so crazy. I didn't think to do that. So yeah, no, I totally have that. I have that with you too. Sometimes when we're working, like, oh yeah, okay, that's a cool way to do that. That's simpler. But yeah, well, cool. So you just worked all Thanksgiving. I mean, I had family time, so I didn't work. I'm all nice and fresh and non-work. Yeah. You look like you're in that cool dark work hole. Even right now, you're just like you look like my brain when I'm working.
You never left it. Yeah, basically the wife went to her family and I was like, okay, I gotta hold the ground here. But I think we should go into some creative news because like, a lot has happened and I think like you want to lead the good old Sam.
Sure. Yeah, so I will lead off here. So everyone has probably heard something about OpenAI and how Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, I think about 2 weeks ago, was ousted in the middle of nowhere where he didn't even find out except for on the news. So he was ousted by his board for, I guess, lying to them and not being truthful about some of the developments he was trying to do. What's interesting is OpenAI was trying to slow down the development of AI. They saw that he was moving too fast, and it seems like he was kind of lying to them and moving around them to keep producing this AI at a breakneck speed. And they didn't sit well with them on that. So they ousted him.
So I heard like there was like a 4-day ordeal going on. Basically, the board had a meeting, fired him, and next day, basically, he got wind of it, and nobody really knew about it. So that's one of the things. And then I also hear like they had like a discovery in regards to AI that it could be very scary, and they were holding off on that. And that is like the summary out of my memory that I have.
Yeah, so you're right. So he was ousted, and then what's interesting is the next day, the CEO of Microsoft hired Sam Altman, and which is crazy. I mean, like, what a power move, right? Because Microsoft was actually the biggest client of OpenAI, and then they were like, "Oh, so you fire the CEO of the people working with? Fine, so they hired him, and they hired another prominent person that helped create OpenAI, and brought him over." And then what's so crazy is just recently, as this week, the staff at OpenAI had a mutiny, and we're like, you know what? If he's gone, we're gone. And they were all going
Yeah.
to walk. And Microsoft even announced that they were going to welcome them all with open arms. So Microsoft is going to take over all of OpenAI. And now Sam Altman, I think, is back because all
The
of the staff,
shareholders were
yeah,
not
they made
happy about it.
and they made demands that they wanted the whole board to be removed. And so I didn't follow that closely, but I think that happened too, where most of the board's now going to step down so Sam Altman
Yeah.
can come back. But what a crazy tale, right? It brings me back to Steve Jobs and Apple so hard, of just like, you get rid of the brain trust and it's dead. Nobody
Yeah.
cares about it. If the genius is gone, nobody wants to even work with you. It's crazy.
But I mean, like, this is like the best case scenario if you think about it. Imagine you build a company, it's super successful, and now you're going public. There's a bunch of shareholders, and they're like, "We're doing great." And then you have a board meeting, and they're like, "We could do it without him, But your
Yeah.
team likes you so much, They believe in you, and they still stick to you. I think that says a lot about like Sam Altman, because like most people would be like, "Oh yeah, the CEO's gone. Never liked him anyways." I don't know if,
Yeah.
like, for Tesla, for example, if Elon gets fired, I don't know. Do the employees really love him? Because he's more on the harsh side. He pushes a little bit harder.
Yeah, well, and he's fringe. He's always saying weird stuff. Like, Elon Musk is always putting his foot in places that it almost doesn't belong. Where Sam Altman's always really consistent. If you ever
Yeah.
hear any of his interviews, he's very intelligent. And he doesn't disagree with the fact that AI is kind of dangerous. In a lot of his interviews, he agrees. He's like, it can be dangerous, and that's why we have to keep developing it. Because I think he has a good point. Is that if we slow down developing AI, that doesn't help anyone. What China's
And
going to slow
somebody
down
else does
developing
it.
AI? Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no reason to slow it down. I mean, yes, it's scary, but yeah, you can't stop it. You can't slow it down to a halt. But
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? Yeah, it just shows though, if you're consistent and
A
you're
good
the brain
leader.
trust, yeah, and a good leader, it doesn't matter. Which I love, because boards can be terrible. It's crazy. I think you've probably had experiences where you create a company, you create an organization, you create something, even if it's just a
Oh,
meetup or something, and
got my
then
fair
you
share of
create,
that one.
yeah. So you create it, you build it up, but you're not
Put the
realizing it
sweat
when you're
equity
building
in
up.
there.
Yeah, and you don't think like your partner's going to screw you over, like, right? Like, you never think that when you're building it up, but then there's someone that's doing some stuff behind the scenes, and before you know it, you're pushed out, you're pushed to the side.
Yeah.
They own it, they have it all, and so that happens all the time. So it's so cool to see an example of like, well, but if you're consistent and you actually know what the heck you're doing, and you're out there speaking the good word, then
Yeah.
they can't get rid of you.
Exactly. It's like too good to be ignored, going back to an old book that I was reading. But it's like, damn, yeah, he's like the man. On the other side, I'm also not anti Elon Musk, but there's now all those big celebrities. And on that note, in the celebrity world, there was like a lot of drama going on too, because like one of my
Right.
streamers, she basically fumbled the bag. She made her own product, and it's basically a cookie that is white labeled. And for all the people who are not knowing what white labeling is, it's basically you design a product that is already designed. You just slap on your logo, you align with the values of the company, like flavors or whatever, and then it's your own product now, and you just promote it to your fan base. That's basically white labeling. And yeah, so she did like kind of like she ruined it a little bit because like she priced like the 4 pack of the cookies for $28, what makes it like $7 a bag, what is still pretty expensive. And yeah, but I think you hear about it too, oh?
Yeah, yeah. So for everyone out there, he's talking about the powerful Pokimane, who is probably one of the biggest influencers right now. I think she got her fame off of Twitch, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so
But
too.
yeah, so she comes out with this product. Her big thing is it's naturally sourced, it's real ingredients. And what's really funny is in a lot of her first videos, she makes it sound like she discovered organic food, like she's the first one to ever really try to
Oh
create
yeah,
anything that's like gluten free
healthy.
and the fact that, like, so if you look here, what's really funny,
And she worked on
she
it for
really,
2 years or so. I'm like, what?
yeah, and it's like, it's funny. She's like highlighting things like there's vitamin D in these, and I'm like, okay. I mean, there's nothing really too stupendous here. And then yeah, come
Yeah.
to find out, she's just using a white label company. She's just using drop shipping, which a lot of people use nowadays. A lot of people are doing this where they're so for anyone out there that doesn't understand what a white label, when we say that, that just means it's a company that's creating a product that's allowing you to put your branding on it and for them to do sometimes all the fulfillment and everything, all the inventory for you. And then all you do is you just provide the branding and the face. So for an influencer, it's perfect, right? Because that's all they have is the face and the marketing. So,
Yeah.
I don't think she even knows how to make a cookie. But, so it's
True.
you know, so it's a good partnership. But what's funny about this is she got in a lot of trouble because she really made it sound like she produced this. She created this company and she's done some groundbreaking
Yeah.
stuff. And she's really gotten under fire now. So
It kind of escalated, because like first
mhm,
she was like flexing too hard, like she did all the work, and then it came out it was already pre-made, and she just put the label on it. Because I
right,
personally think like white labeling is not that bad, like it's happening all the time in all the big
right.
supermarkets, and it's not a big deal if you're like honest about it, or you just don't rub it in everybody's face that you designed this for 2 years and like, oh, you just copy and paste it. With that being
Yeah.
said, it's like, yeah, it's kind of iffy if you have a big mouth.
Well, it's really interesting because it's like, yeah, if you were just like a mysterious businessman, it's not a big deal. But if you're
Yeah.
like if you're a person that's in front of a camera and you're talking to people and you have an audience that trusts you, and then you're telling them, because I don't think she was open about it, right? If she would have been open at the beginning, I'm using a third party company and I've been partnering with them to do this, but I think it was all the wording, right? It was like, I did this company, I've made
Yeah.
these things, I've worked with the scientists, I
For
wore the
two
lab
years,
coat.
whatever. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
and people are like, well, because it's like the cat's out of the bag. It's like more and more people understand that that's how the world works. Like, right,
Yeah.
like most artists don't print like 100 T-shirts that they have in their closet. Like most people don't have a million coffee mugs that they're that a lot of us are doing drop shipping. A lot of us are doing white label. Now,
Yeah.
of course, you don't have to. Some of us, once you get enough money and you're able to get inventory, sure, but it's so much of the internet is. I mean, how much do you think of like the internet is white label? If you were to guess, like.
Jeez, like you can go like from presets for editing, sound design. There's
Mhm,
probably like 50% of the stuff, or even more, is already pre-made. Like we're all
mhm.
using tools that somebody else did, and we're using those tools
Right.
to make our own thing. And it's like even the colors, like the RGB codes and whatever. Most people just pre-select the first one they find. If there's like a website with like 20 colors, you're just like, oh yeah, those colors go well together, copy and paste. You're not even
Right.
like selecting their own colors sometimes, and this can be like,
Oh,
yeah, I cannot even put a number on it, but I assume it's like more
yeah.
than 50% if you're
More
being
than
really
50%.
nitpicky.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that too. I think we're entering a new time where a lot more people are going to be in the drop shipping game, and you're right. You have software as a service, which is what you're kind of talking about, where there's all this software that we use to create stuff, but we're using something that was built by somebody
Mm-hmm.
else. So in templates and things like that, and so yeah, so it's very interesting. It's like me being calling myself a web designer. In some past talks, like when we talked to Tom a few episodes back, where we're talking about how Wix sucks, right? Because it's very templated, right? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of web designers out there like, I'm a web designer, but it's like you just chose one of the 20 colors. That's all you did. And you clicked on a template and you paid 20
There
bucks
we
for
go.
the you
Bring
paid
the
20 bucks for a
fire, bring
template.
the fire,
Yeah,
burn
let's
it
go. Let's
down.
go. But yeah, I mean like but you
Squarespace.
paid you paid 20 bucks for a template and then you charge your client 2 grand and called yourself web designer. So there's a lot of that that's going on. There's a lot of this kind of like, and I kind of love that this is getting some spotlight of like, be true, okay? Stop lying. I mean, there's a point where
I
like
mean,
you're lying, and there's a point where you're being good business. And I think she crossed that line, and we saw
yeah.
how intense that can
I
be.
think like she wanted to take more credit for it because like she really wanted her audience to believe she put like sweat equity in there. She's really invested in that.
Hmm.
And obviously, she did not do any of that, and that was the problem. If she would have said like, "Hey, buy my cookies," and I make a little bit money, and it's still relatively healthy, I would have bought the
Right.
cookies. Maybe who knows? I probably did
Hmm.
not, but the concept would be like, it's not like, oh, she invented the cookie. It's like us saying, yeah, we invented the software that we're right now using to have this miraculous podcast. It's like that's not the thing. You don't say things to just flex on our people so you make them believe in you.
Right.
That's like so perceptive. in a way.
So it's interesting here. So we have Sam Altman, who like has been there since day one, helping develop AI, knows a lot of it in and out, knows where the future is going to go. Is also very humble and knows what he doesn't know,
Yeah.
and it's just great to. And then you have Pokimane, so you have this kind of more like doesn't know anything about what she's actually selling and is just focused on the selling, but which would be fine if she wasn't trying to be like, I created the first organic cookie. We're the first ones to put vitamin D in food. I mean, when
Yeah.
you start to get to these crazy places, it'd be like if Sam Altman was like, "I'm the one that came up with the concept of AI," and be like, "No, you didn't. AI, the concept of AI was way before you were born, buddy." And so
Yeah.
it's like that kind of you have to be careful where it's like, yes, you can seem bigger and more smart than you actually are, but you got to be careful when people are like, "No, you're just." Because once people don't believe you, that you're done. That's what I've learned in now today's age. Once people are like, I can't trust Pokimane, that brand is now hurt going forward.
Yeah, but on the other side, like in the social media influence world, it's like the bigger the mouth, the more virality you get, like you spread your message.
Right.
People hear about the cookie. Maybe they don't even care about it's white labeled or not. And they're just like, oh, yeah, they sound kind of healthy, they just buy it, because they couldn't get
Right.
like, it's free promotional material, that's how you can win whole elections. If you upset people, they share the message and some people don't care, so it might be like the perfect marketing move, and we could
Yeah.
being played right now, but it's right now also backfiring for her because people were complaining about the price and she was like making fun of the viewers for like it's just $7 a
Right.
bag. If you're too poor, don't buy it, and then she laughs. It's kind of, and then maybe just pushed it over the edge and now it's like, do we cancel her or we don't cancel her? I don't know. It was a
That's
joke.
true. Yeah, you want to know like one of the top ways to alienate your audience is be like, if you're too poor to take my product, then I don't want you. Like, okay, well, you just lost lots of people.
Well, we
Yeah,
never said that.
exactly. No, we'll take anyone. If we don't care how poor you are, if you're watching this, you can buy one of our stuff. Go to infinitecreativepodcast.com and buy stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But
Getting the
it's
websites ready on a budget too, huh?
and so Pokimane is funny because she's not by herself. Logan Paul and his prime are under investigation by the Trade
Hmm.
Commission. I think in Canada they've already halted the sale of his product because they found that it's not as healthy as it's claimed, and there's also defects in the product itself.
Oh my
So
God. I don't know. Did you even hear about that?
oh yeah, well no,
The
it's there's
No, I mean
so
like the Amazon Prime.
oh
Apparently
not Amazon
Amazon
Prime.
No, Amazon workers cannot have like enough time to go in the restroom. So they pee in a bottle. And it's not allowed to pee in the bottle. So they kind of hide those bottles. A guy made a label and sold that as a Prime bottle from Amazon as an energy drink. So he was selling Amazon's
Hmm.
pee on Amazon as like a fictional energy drink. Obviously, it was not an energy drink, and it was like a whole 24 pack of pee. And it is hilarious because apparently on Amazon there's a way to circumstance like the regulatory. Oh yeah, it has to have like those ingredients. Double check if it's an energy drink, so you get away with murder if you're like, oh yeah, it's an energy drink. You can't put anything in there apparently. So he was selling piss on Amazon, and the funniest thing was Amazon's workers piss. I kind of you take over for a moment. I sent you the images.
Oh my lord. Well, I think it's okay. I don't know if we need the images, but
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 he covered the logo from Prime just with his own logo, and it looked like a yellow bottle, like Prime. But yeah,
well, it's interesting. Yeah, so I was talking about something different, but that's also crazy. That yeah, another white label problem going on out there that like anyone can sell anything, even if it's pee. But yeah, so I mean, I was kind of yeah, yeah, Logan Paul and his prime energy, that thing's gone, and
sorry.
there's and Mr. Beast has also had problems as well with he has like he's had problems I think with his restaurants. I think have a lot of them have talked about like bad working conditions and things like that. And the food
No,
isn't is so there's been controversy with almost any one of these influencers. It
yeah,
seems like when they get into this world of entrepreneurship, starting their own companies. Well, the thing is they're not really starting their own companies. I think that's the problem,
yeah,
right? Mr. Beast doesn't know anything about
picking
making
partners.
burgers, and now he makes burgers because he just picks a business partner, and that's great. But now you're responsible. Is I think is what these influencers are finding. You
Yeah,
can't just put your face on a business product. Like now you are part of that business. So if you commit fraud, you're now on a federal level committing fraud on a business. So it's
exactly.
so I don't think they understand it. It's like this is blowing up bigger than you even
Yeah.
realize.
On Mr. Beast's part though, because he's kind of the good guy, his ghost kitchen was like pretty much slacking everywhere, and he didn't want to be part of that anymore. And he was like, "Okay, I quit this. I'm not
Hmm.
promoting it anymore because they cannot keep up with the quality." And
Right.
I respect that. He's like standing up and it's like, "Hey, don't buy it because the quality is not there." And he's like very against it, but obviously the big company who's like, oh yeah, we own all those ghost kitchens. They're not really like a real company where they're having like 1,000 restaurants. They're just like it's some software CEO. So like we're sending orders now from one restaurant to the other, make it just how we like it, and we still want to get our cut. It's like kind of like Uber, and they didn't do a good quality control. What is like kind of messed up, because
True.
I understand like you want to venture in a new business, and I think that's admirable. We all should do that and learn, but there's obviously like years of experience that you need, where it's like, is this the right decision? Do
Right.
branding, marketing, sales, picking partners, having good and bad partners, what it comes down to, because like
Hmm.
he picked the wrong partner. It was maybe the best move to have like a lot of restaurants, because it would be maybe if you would have done it the old school way, he maybe would have like 10 restaurants all by himself, made by himself, but they would not keep up with the volume. But he wanted high volume and picked the wrong partner, but it's probably the only partner that he could have picked in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what
I
I
mean,
think.
it's well, yeah, and and who knows? There could have been other partners. There could have been other companies, even internationally. But you're right. He chose this one, and it's interesting. You were all right. He is kind of the good guy in this, where he was like, "Well, this isn't meeting my level of expectations." And it's funny that now they're countersuing him because now they're claiming he didn't promote the burger enough, which I think is
Yeah, because
ridiculous. Because I feel like I've seen that in videos. I've seen him promote it, so I don't know what they're alleging
yeah, but
there.
he stopped because like it was not good, and I also saw those videos too. And he made like I think like tweets about like, hey, don't buy it anymore, and that
Mm.
shows good intent, but a breach of contract, to be
Yeah,
honest, because
yeah,
like
yeah.
he still should have promoted it and gave them the opportunity to fix it. But that's like for the courts,
Right.
not for us.
Well, 100%. So it's like this is really showing a really good example of like, can you take these shortcuts to become a business mogul? Yes, but then you're in bed with people you don't know very well, and now you're contractually attached to them. Where, honestly, I can't speak for Mr. Beast, but if we were to
Yeah,
ask him, I'm sure we would be like, well, would you do this again? Would you just start it yourself? And he'd probably say like 100% yes, because it would take longer to get off the ground, but then I would have 100% control of every step up to that.
yeah,
And that's the same thing in business, right? So like when we start our businesses, it's awkward and it's tough, but we have 100% control. Where yeah, if you had to like sell like 2/3 of your business off to another video production company in order to feed you work, that's great and all, but now they're in the driver's seat. Now if
yeah.
you mess them up, now they can sue you, and so it's like, yeah, sometimes the harder path in business is the best path. But it's funny, we live in this time where we just don't have any patience. Really, people are just like,
Yeah.
I just want to rule the world tomorrow. I did this today. I want to do that tomorrow, and the next day I want to be president. So it's like that could be dangerous, right? It could be
I mean,
dangerous.
it's possible. That is this crazy part with the internet. If you get enough momentum and people talking about you, and then everything is possible because they believe in it. But still, you just like stacking Jenga sticks on each other until it like folds. But if you build that foundation, you build something really solid, and that takes
100%.
time, years, effort, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
not easy. It's not easy being a
yeah.
business or yeah, making it happen in this world.
Yeah, but again, yeah, going back to Sam Altman and why his thing worked, why did people rally around him? Is he was in AI 15 years ago. He
Yeah.
was doing AI way before it was cool, and he's stuck in it. So that's the thing too. For anyone watching, if you're doing something that's not really sexy now, it could be sexy in 10 years. So it's like, just if
Yeah.
you're there though since day one, that's such a solid foundation versus the influencer in 10 years that tries to jump onto your thing and try to take over. It may seem like it's working, but yeah, it's not a good foundation.
Yeah, and it's also going back to the community because everybody knows everybody. It's like here,
Yeah,
Temper, St. Pete. I know all the big videographers. Everybody follows everybody. We see what they're doing, how busy they are. And the community is kind of there. It's same with those AI people. They're just like, okay, he worked on this project. I maybe don't like him, but I like what he does. And it all
right.
comes together. You cannot then just like, okay, start everything from scratch and be like burning bridges because those people maybe
Yeah.
don't want to work with you.
Oh yeah, 100%. People do remember. I have found that even when things end terribly, I try to be as good of a person as I possibly can be. In the last 2 years,
Yeah.
you've known this off screen that there's been things that have happened that people have really ticked me off, and we've almost gone to court with a couple of different people. And
I
but
had my fair share too.
yeah, you have to. But throughout all that, my whole thing was like, I'm gonna act very professional and very kind, and I'm even gonna wish them good luck. I'm even gonna be nice
Yeah.
on the way out and be like, I hope this works out for you. And I think that's the better approach because then there just is no. It's hard for anyone to be your enemy if nobody's your enemy. So
Yeah.
if anyone goes around talking crap, but everyone's like, no, Fitzy's such a nice guy. Fitzy was nice.
Yeah.
He saved me here. He saved me there. Then it's like their words will fall on deaf ears. Where yeah, if you're this kind of person that's jumping around and you have this kind of mentality of like, I'm going to take this over, I'm going to push this guy out of the way, I'm going to screw this guy
Yeah.
over, then yeah, the second someone's like, oh yeah, this guy Fitz I started work with, man, he's not, and they're going to be like, yeah, I know, exactly. And people are going to, jump to the other side. So, and we know people like that in St. Pete that are like, for us, they're like blacklisted. If you were to see like that you were going to work with them on the project, you'd probably be like, no, we're done. Like I know you have your list of people that you're like, if he was in the project, I'm done. I'm walking right
I
now.
mean, like, yeah. So that goes kind of back to gut feelings. When you have a gut feeling in the beginning, and you just like swallow it. Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's true.
If you have red flags and you're like, oh yeah, you shouldn't do that. You don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like the old adage, I forget what it is. Like, trick me once, shame on you. Trick me twice, shame on me. And I think
Yeah.
that's like that's the interesting thing of like too is like if someone screws you over, maybe forgive them, but don't ever forget, right? Don't let someone
Yeah.
just cyclically screw you over and over because they do. It's so interesting. Like when you work with like these intense narcissists, they're so good at like flipping the narrative over and over and over again. Like I did screw you over, but it was for good reasoning, and they get you nodding like, okay, I guess you're right. And then they screw you over again. They're like, but no, but that was good reasoning. Like, okay, all right, may I have another? And it's like, so you have to. So it's these are funny examples, right? You have Sam Altman, who has just been solid, and he's gotten big only in the last year, but he was in the closet working on AI, and but then you have
For years.
Pokimane, who's just been like out in front of the camera and just like and she's kind of she's lived a really easy influencer type of life where it's just things are now handed to her. She can just get
Yeah.
whatever she wants now, but you can see how that has now hurt her brand by not being true to herself and not being true to the people. Yet again, you don't tell people you're in the lab doing all these things when you're not. Like
Yeah.
people are smart now. People get it. They don't.
I
White
mean,
label's not that foreign.
people are also like kind of bored and they are like, if they jump on anything, like what is the new drama? What's the new tea, because that will get clicks, then you report about it. And that is like, it's good and bad at the same time because like some things will be pushed out of proportion,
Yeah,
obviously white labeling is not a big deal. That's what I think. Like, I think like
yeah.
Pokimane should get that bag. It's like $7 for the whole bag. And
Mm-hmm.
the original one is like $8 or $9, so it's actually $2 cheaper. But because she fumbled the bag and like roasted the viewers for not being able to afford $28, that's like, is it like, should she be canceled? Hell no. But should she get like, oh yeah, don't flex if you didn't do it? Hell yeah.
Right.
And
Well, and
that's
also
like
no,
the balance.
yeah, and know your audience. Like, who's Pokemon's average age of viewer? You think young
Yeah.
people that have no money. So don't like. It's not like you're talking to boomers who have like 401ks and stuff. You're talking to kids that
Yeah.
are working at Sonic and telling them, "Oh, you don't have money for my cookies."
I also
It's
don't
like,
think they eat like gluten-free cookies. So I'm like, they're just like, okay, make them extra sugary. It's not about being healthy. It's like, I'm a gamer. I want to have some good old chips. That stuff would slap if you get like here some really good chips from Pokimane with like some bacon on
mhm.
it, and I don't know.
Well, and it's so funny because as she's talking, she's like, finally, we have found a way to make sweets that are good for you. And I'm like, by the way, there's something called fruits, and you can now also snack on those too. It's crazy. You can get an orange, it's very sweet, and it's crazy. It's good
Got
for
an
you. It's
apple,
like,
a slice of an apple. I'm like, what?
it just blows my mind these kind of bubbles some of these influencers live in where they literally think we're all waiting patiently for them to discover the light bulb or something. It's like, no, no. Like,
I mean,
you were
it's
great
pretty
on
light bulb,
Twitch.
but yeah, but it's kind of funny. So that goes like kind of into this New Year's drama of like, oh, somebody invented something, and you don't really think, and you just buy the new invention, the new hype, and it is
Right.
coming kind of down to it. Like, okay, new cameras are being dropped, new products are coming out, and I found myself in the predicament where my gimbal broke, and I'm like, oh, now I need a new gimbal. I repaired it, still kind of works, but I'm like looking around and there's no gimbals with AI tracking, and I'm like, oh, I need that. And I'll wait for the Black Friday deal. Not thinking, completely sucked into that commercial drain of YouTube reviews and everything. I'm like, I have an excuse. I need to buy it because my gear's broken. Solid excuse to buy something. And then
Right.
I'm like, I fixed it and it's good enough. And now I'm like, wait a minute, didn't my gimbal actually have tracking too if I connect my phone? And then I tested it and I'm like, oh, I can save now $200 or $300 because I don't need that gimbal because my gimbal already can do it if I just attach my phone. I'm like, if you don't know your tools deeply enough or you don't use it, you maybe get blinded by the shiny object and like, oh, it has tracking. But I already got
Yeah.
tracking, you know?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if you have like an experience like that, but I feel like most things we don't really need right now.
well, I always do, and I think the biggest company that I always point out that's like this is Apple. Every year there's a new Apple. Every year people trade in their apples, and I'm explaining to them, oh, that's cool because it has a new option in that app, and they're like, what app? And I'm like, oh, you don't even know about. Oh, okay. Well, why'd you get it? Well, I don't know. It's titanium now, and it's like. So I kind of did that too. Like when I bought my Apple Studio, there's stuff in it that made it good, but there was like dedicated like 8 or 16 gigabytes of video RAM. And it's like, does Sean really need that? He's a web designer. It's not like I'm producing
That YouTube
movies.
doesn't watch itself. I mean, you need that RAM.
I'm guilty of that with Apple, where I'm just like, well, I need the new Apple because all those stats are up and it's intense, man. And then
Yeah.
I'll still find on my old Apple, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that existed. I still didn't even know that existed. Like it's so crazy. I've
Yeah.
used Apple now for 15, 20 years, and I'm still finding things, and I'm just like, wait, what? Oh, that's all I have to do? That's
I
crazy.
still
It's just
would
like,
vote for a new iPhone. Just saying, Mr. Grain. but it's like it goes kind of back to like getting the most bang for the buck and like mastering your tools. And I'm like, we kind of get like lost in like consuming and buying versus mastering what we got. Because
yeah.
like that's the summary kind of in a way.
Well, because it's like the harder path, right? It's like the yeah. Nobody ever wants to take the hard path. Everyone wants the like, oh, I bought a solution and we're there. And people also like to blame the technology, right? I catch myself doing that sometimes, where I'm like, if I only had a faster web server, if I only had a better computer, if I only had another monitor, and you get caught in these things where you start to make excuses for yourself. And when it's really like, no, honestly, you could have a dog crap computer. You could have a phone, an iPhone from 10 years ago. You could have all these things and still run a successful business. So it's
Yeah.
funny. We get caught up in this, like, I'm going to blame the technology. I hear it all the time with videographers and photographers, like, well, I just need that mirrorless and then I'm there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you though? And like, there's a funny video, I forgot where it's on. I think you or someone else sent it to me, where it's really funny, where it shows like a guy with a camera, and the guy like walks up, makes spot like he's like, oh yeah, I got a D6 or whatever of those, and the guy's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, do you shoot a lot of sports photography? Well, no. Then I don't know why the heck you would get a D6, but okay. It's like that kind of like,
But it's
yeah, it's
better.
like,
It's just like
but it's better. Yeah, I got it though. So it's like, but
yeah.
that happens all the time. It's like, if you really don't need it, it's like you really shouldn't. But we do. We get caught in this like, but I want to be cutting edge. I want to be the
Yeah.
best. And yeah,
It is so sad in a way because like I was like realizing, what you can do with one camera is kind of crazy, and it doesn't really matter what type of camera it is, It's same with the iPhone. You can go out
Mhm.
there, shoot like an amazing video, and the video quality does not really matter. It's more like what you say in that video, what message do you deliver, how
Mhm.
authentic it is, and what you
100%.
do with it, So it's like there's
Yeah.
videos on TikTok going viral that are like filmed of really bad quality. My favorite is like when dudes like throw like sheets of ice on the floor and they just shatter, And we all know that feeling when you throw something really big frozen and it just shatters, not filmed on a good,
Mhm.
it still gets more views than most things. And it's like what you
Mhm.
film, how you film it, versus like now you got that really expensive camera and you film
Right.
something really, really boring, but you're like completely obsessing about the quality and the dynamic range and the how less noise it has. But it's like, yeah, well, I don't care, because there's nothing
Yeah.
interesting in there.
Yeah, the concept is most of it, exactly. All of it's in here, and it's so
Yeah.
funny. So there's so many people that make that excuse of like, if I just get better gear, I'll be better. But it's like, no, if you just spent more time thinking and getting better at that, then yeah, that's where it all is. And another thing, this would be kind of my segue, is we just got to be thankful for the stuff we have, right? I mean,
Oh,
like I have to tell myself that as a web designer, as a designer, that I have to like sometimes pause and be like, you have a ton of stuff, man. Like if we were going to start being a web designer today, it would be a hard road where now it's like I have all these tools that I've already paid for. I have all this, hardware that really consume. I have stuff in Colorado and in Florida. So when I come here in Colorado, I have two monitors, a stand-up desk, and Apple. When I go to Florida, I have a nice MacBook Pro, other monitors, and a desk. And it's like
yeah.
I have to remind myself, you have a lot, man. Like you have all the tools you ever would need.
Yeah, and sometimes with that being said, like you can actually try to become creative. What can I do with that? What can I do with the
Right.
tools that I already have and I have not considered? Putting limitations on stuff. Like sometimes, as a videographer, if you have all the lenses, you bring your backpack, you put 12 lenses in there, and just like, what lens do you use now? And it's
Mm-hmm.
more fun to shoot a project with just the one lens that you got right now, because now you're
100%.
limited to like the 35 millimeters with the f1.8 or whatever it is, and it's like now everything looks a certain way. Now you're
Right.
figuring out, how do I make this work, versus like you're just like picking and choosing the right lens, but you don't know what you even want to film. Limitations
Yeah.
make you more creative in a way sometimes.
Oh, 100%. And, I see this a lot in disc golf. I don't talk about a lot about disc golf or frolf for all of you out there. But,
Frolf.
you know, frolf, frisbee golf. But
Frolf.
don't ever call it that. It's disc golf. Um, but,
Frolf.
um, so what I see when I go out on the course is you'll see a guy with a like a baby stroller, and you'll think it's a baby, and then oh no, it's actually 50 discs that he brought out on the course. And I'm sitting there thinking like, there's no way you have mastered each of these discs because they all have different flight patterns. But it's like there's no way you need 50 discs. I'll sometimes go out with 3 discs: a putter, a mid range, and a driver. Boom, and I will play the whole
I
game with that
did not
because
know that
because
there's
guess what?
differences.
There is my boy, and there's like so there's I mastered those though, so when I throw those, they're gonna hit really where I want them. But then yeah, if I had 50 discs, I'll just be like, I don't know, whoops, that goes over the fence. Okay, I
That
didn't
would
know
be
what that one
me.
did. Yeah, and I think the same is probably in the videographer world, right? If you have like too many lenses, then you're probably going to use the wrong ones. Where it's like, why are you using that when you could have just used like the 55 millimeter basic, and you would have
Yeah.
been fine. But instead, you got fancy, and now it's out of depth, and it's weird.
Yeah. So like getting fancy is usually like also like if you don't do it often, it can break your neck. It's like
Oh
I
yeah.
like getting into routines. If you're in the routine of doing something, man, you make the most gains right there. Because like let's say you do the podcast, you do 50 podcasts, you learn
Mhm.
more than if you do like one podcast really good. Because like let's say you do spend the same time on one project, which is nearly impossible to do. It's kind of bad, but you
Mhm.
would learn more about like what can go wrong in those 50 episodes, or in like scheduling or different schedules and like topics. There's like so many lessons in
Mhm.
routine and repetition, versus like, oh, let's do one thing and it's completely scripted and we didn't learn anything, we just kept up with the script and barely like up.
Mhm.
So that's where
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, repetition is like, it's really big, and then you can master those little tools.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Because those tools only account for the 1 to 2% of everything. You can get to the 98%, and then you're ready for those tools. And hopefully by then you have a budget for it. That's the thing too, is it's like if you look at a lens and it's $5,000 and that's way out of your budget, that means you're probably not at that point as a videographer. But then someday,
Yeah.
hopefully, you're getting $5,000 a gig. So it's like whatever, I'll get the lens. Like, that's kind of how I am now. Versus if I look at my beginning of my career, buying the tools now, like sometimes I'll have to pay for a web design tool like $300 for a year, and that's crazy. But if I'm getting like $5,000 on that job, $3,000 on that job, $2,000 on that job, and it's all
It's all
using this
right.
tool, then it's nothing. But so that's the thing too, is what I've started to do, and I always tell people to do this, is make the wish list now. When you run into stuff, you don't have to buy it. I think that's half of it, is we get scared we're going to forget about it. So we're like, well, I better buy it now, because if I don't buy it now, I'm going to forget it even exists. So
Yeah.
create a wish list. I have a notion where it's just a wish list, where it's literally like when we have money, then we'll get these things. But I
You
don't
gotta
want to
drop
forget
that in
them.
the comments below. People, Christmas is coming around. Sean needs like a new tool, one or two, maybe, if not free. I
Right,
dropped
right. I
my
know.
two.
Right, yeah, and but this leads me kind of to my subject of like, we just had Thanksgiving, and this may sound a little cheesy, but I just wanted to focus on, what are we thankful for? And I'll start. I want to say that I'm definitely thankful that I've survived in this career. I think going through COVID, going through the after COVID, and all the crazy clients after not getting paid, I'm just grateful that I'm not bagging at a grocery store right now. I'm glad that I was able to hold on by the skin of my teeth, and get some things just now recently paid, that it seems like now I'll be okay now. Like we just got that place where finally things that I've been waiting for 5 or 6 months have now come in and started to be like, okay, let's go, let's do it, let's do it. Here's
Yeah.
the first deposit. And so it's really crazy that, that I'm even still doing this. So I got to say that that's the thing I'm probably the most grateful for. What would you say? What's Fitz most grateful for this year?
Fitz, grateful. I'm entitled little brat. I'm like, I'm not happy. No. I don't know. Like, some people they need like that gratitude and that emotional stability stuff. I like being on the edge, I'm like, I know I'm happy for what I got, and I got a lot of things, but we all get numb to it in a way. But I also know if I would fix one or two or three things, I would be in a different position. And I'm only focusing on how to change those one or two, three things. But besides that, I guess I'm happy for this liquid death. It's my blessing for today.
Okay, okay.
It's
Well,
the little
it's a
things.
very it's a little thing to be gratitude. And what I would say is gratitude's the quickest path to happiness. So I would say, for you, man, try to find gratitude in the things. It'll help lead you to a happier place
But
and
I'm
out of
already
dark Fitz
happy,
land.
Like I like working, I like doing what I'm doing, So I'm like, I'm already there. I'm just like, I want to get there, grind.
Yeah, well, I think there's being happy, but gratitude's different. Gratitude's like taking the time and focusing on that happiness. I feel like you could be happy without being gracious, but I think the graciousness is like nice because it actually makes you sit there and be like, okay, like good,
Yeah.
like thank you. You almost thank the universe in a way. You're like, thank you. Like this could be crappy. Like you could still be delivering pizzas right now. Like it could be bad. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. So I don't know. I'm
You're
grateful for this
right.
podcast.
You're right. It's Thanksgiving. I shall approve of this message.
It's
We put
funny,
the
like
stamp on there.
oh my
Yeah.
god.
But
But
you're
yeah,
right. I should be thankful for all the things. It could be all worse, And I'm like, yeah, that's all right.
yeah, because I think we can be, I can be the same way where I just focus on the bad. I'll just like things need to get better. X, Y, and Z needs to be better, and I need to be better in these ways. And our minds are just always focused in that. Like, there's no way we're ever going to be happy. Like we'll just go over the mountaintop and be like, oh, well, there's another mountaintop, and I'm not there, so I'm unhappy still. And that can
This
be
is an
a
interesting way how you phrase that, because for me, happiness is actually the problem. When you work on the problem, that makes me happy. That's like the journey. You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, I get an opportunity to work on this, that makes me happy.
mm,
So I'm not unhappy that I have that problem. I'm happy that I can work on it, and I will be really
yeah.
happy when I overcome that. That's kind of how I see it. So that's
Well,
also
that's
the
cool.
only way how you can be happy working at Thanksgiving.
I love how you've had to like totally talk to yourself and make yourself believe this. But no, I mean, but no, but you
But
are right
I
though in the
was
way.
happy, It's like if you're really in the element, kind of, then it's like, oh yeah, I don't mind grinding for it because it's 100% for me. It's not that I make a other company rich. Yesterday maybe, but but it's still my buddy, and we're kind of working together, so it's still like a win-win. And I learned
Yeah.
stuff, so I'm like, right now I'm like,
Well, there you
yeah,
go. There's
I'm
the
stoked.
gratitude right there. There's the
Yeah,
gratitude right there. Because I think what you just said is, you're gracious that your friend trusted you to help him. First off, like
yeah,
that's got to be cool, right? Because it would suck if none of us trusted you. None of us wanted to work with you. I didn't want to have a
yeah,
podcast with you. Other people wouldn't do weddings and other gigs with you. So even there's got to be some gratitude. Oh, pinky up. That he's just like, that you're like, wow, I even have a friend that trusts me to do this, and then you're great. You're grateful that you're even learning stuff from him, and it's
yeah.
free knowledge. You didn't have to pay him for this. In fact, he's probably paying you to teach you some of this stuff. So it's super cool. So you are gracious. I think
I
you
guess
just have
so.
to. You're just not
Yeah,
labeling
I'm
it
approving
that.
of it. It's Thanksgiving. You get the wave of it.
But we'll go back to our dark, usually scheduled
Yeah.
programming next
Actually,
week.
let me turn down the light.
Well, heck yeah.
No.
Well, it's been a great episode, man. Thanks to all of you, the viewers out there. Definitely like, subscribe, engage with us. Put in the comments things that you're grateful for. And, obviously feel free to email us. We've had a couple of you
Yeah.
email us about some guests and stuff. So I think we're going to have some other guests start to pop on again. And yeah, always message us. We love you guys. So yeah, keep watching.
Yeah. On that note, though, Sean, where are you? What you doing right now?
Yeah, very quickly in Colorado, just for the next week or two, getting a couple
Gotcha.
new gigs here, and then hopping back over there. Got a lot of things kicking off first thing when I get there, which is really cool. I got to say, the last 2 weeks have been great for networking with me. Almost every single prospect now has led to something, which is kind of crazy. Even every cold email I've sent has led to something. So I don't
I
know
like
what
that. I like hearing that.
I'm running on a high these last 2 weeks, so it's good. So even when I come back there, there's like all these meetings already set up and things. So there's
So
cool
on
stuff.
that note, though, Mr. Shaunaru, you have a project going on. You put some work in it. You shall promote it because you're not doing a good effort with that. I saw you doing like a Facebook post. Can you actually pull that up? Because I think like it's called Poly whatever. Poly
It's
I
called Polly
po,
Polly whatever. No, no,
no
it's funny. No, it's
polygrammarly.
nope. But that's okay.
God damn it.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, you
So
need
yeah,
a
so for me it's
nickname.
poly. So it's polychromic art. So in that
Polychromic.
and yeah, so that's Latin for poly is many, chromic is colors, so many colors. So I've recently launched a website. So please go to polychromicart.com, or you can look up polychromic art in Instagram. So look up here. It's just POLYCHROMIC art.com. But right now, I have limited edition prints for sale. I definitely need some money to kind of start to come in to start to really defend. It's fine. This is going to load slow. Since I'm on Riverside. Okay, here we go. But so I definitely am selling prints now. I have a limited edition T-shirt I'm selling on there. And just so you guys know, there is vitamin D in all of these, and they are gluten free. I've been in the lab for 2 years developing these prints, so just so you guys know. Um, but definitely go. And we're also on Etsy. I need some Etsy sales too. So let's look up polychromic art. If you're more of an Etsy person, please do. Already gotten some few sales from friends and family, which is so cool and humbling. But for everyone out there, I'm releasing prints. Follow me on Instagram. The art career is starting to kind of get more and more momentum. So hopefully I'll share more and more of that on here. But yeah, yet again, polychromic art. Please go check stuff out. Go on the Instagram, like stuff, buy prints, buy a shirt. It's just helping me become kind of more of a full-time professional artist. So that's my spiel.
Yeah.
Please help me become an artist, people.
Yeah. So now I forced you to promote yourself. I think I did my part.